This is a brief talk on being present to the moment, or just being present. And this one is not a proper meditation, although you can listen to it that way. Um, when I first started hearing talk about being present to the moment, um, I think a lot of it was in relation to Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. And they didn't use the same term, but certainly in learning different forms of meditation, there was this idea of being present to the moment. And what happened with me initially is, as soon as I, um, heard this idea of being present to the moment, immediately I became aware of not being present to the moment, and I also got caught up in uh, this idea of doing something right, and kind of worrying about, am I present? Am I present in this moment? And ironically, all that thinking takes you away from the moment. It's all conceptual. And being present to the moment, in my opinion, is simply a matter of being in your experience and just experiencing whatever is happening. Now, I say simply, but it's only simple if you let it be simple. Um, and there are a lot of ways that you can begin to practice that, right? And certainly it's something that I talk about quite a bit, or if you listen to any of the guided meditations that I have, those are some ways that you can begin to become present to the moment. You can also become present to the moment enjoying a great meal, or tuning into your body, or noticing your breath, or really just noticing, okay, what is happening in this moment? And I think that's the first useful distinction is, am I present here in this moment, or am I immersed in thought or in my experience? And the first thing I would recommend is take away any idea of shame about not being in the moment. It's not a big deal. It's perfectly natural at times to get lost in thought. I think what's useful is to begin to notice, oh, I was just lost in thought, or I am lost in thought. And then to come back, not with some sense of shame, or I didn't do it right, or I need to do it for a certain length of time. Just beginning to enjoy the movement between being here in the moment and being somewhere else, wherever somewhere else is. Um, I really enjoy sitting down to a great meal, and sometimes I'll spend the day looking forward to that, which means I'm not present while I'm looking forward to that meal. And then I'll sit down, and finally the meal will be there, and I'll start eating. And maybe for a few moments I'm really there with the meal, and then for parts of it I'm checked out, I'm somewhere else. And that also is okay. Um, Again, I think it's useful just to notice, oh, I'm here for certain periods of time, and then I'm away for certain periods of time, or I'm somewhere else. I'm thinking about something. Um, I think I'll say something radical here. I think you can be present to the moment while immersed in thought, but it can be a slippery slope, because you can just then get lost in thought without awareness, and that's a little bit different. Um, it's a little bit like lucid dreaming, where you all of a sudden you wake up in your dream and you realize, I'm dreaming, and yet you're present to being in the dream. And that's, I would say, another form of being present to the moment. But you're not present in your environment. You're asleep in that moment. The environment that you're present to is the constructed dream. So again, a couple ways that you can begin to practice this is noticing your breathing, noticing what's going on with your body. Notice anything that's happening around you. Sometimes it's fun to just notice what you're seeing in front of you and then also beginning to pay attention to peripheral vision and letting your awareness sort of soften so that you're not attending rigidly, but you're sort of taking in the landscape of your experience and beginning to slow down and beginning to know pauses and experience pauses between things, noticing sound and sensation. And those are all different points of entry into the moment. Like I was saying, a good meal can be a point of entry. Taking a walk and being in your surroundings is another invitation. Now, if you're reading a book, you can be present to the book and you can be immersed in the experience of the book. And then you may get lost in thought when the book actually invites you, inspires a different thought. I'm sure you've had the experience of reading, and then at the end of a paragraph, you kind of go, oh, wait a minute, what did I just read? And what happens there is another thought sort of takes you in and takes you away somewhere else. And then you come back to the moment and you can start again, start reading again, and become present to that moment again and again and again. So every opportunity is another place to practice. And again, in my opinion, let go of being right, let go of getting it right, let go of any idea of duration, because all of that stuff is just stirring up more thought and more self-consciousness and taking you away from the experience of what you're feeling, what you're sensing, and what's happening in this moment. What's happening again in your body, in your breathing, any emotions that you're feeling, any sensations, any sounds, even just having an awareness of your thinking, however that's occurring in this moment. So those are all different invitations back to the moment. And what I've found over time is that doing this even for a few moments every day really for me has the effect of calming down my nervous system and training it to calm down. So that even when things are swirling out of control, you have this sort of home base to come back to. And just returning to that calmness, to that stillness. Instead of getting all like, now you can certainly be, you can be present to the moment and be more upbeat, you know. Being present doesn't mean you have to completely go internal. It doesn't mean necessarily you have to slow down, although I often do slow down and calm down. But you can be present in more of an external way. You know, certainly sometimes when doing Aikido, it's like you're present, but you're very engaged in the moment, and there's a lot of speed and momentum there. Just like if you're driving really quickly, you really have to be present, but in a more active way. So that's another way of being present to the moment, being present to whatever is happening in the moment. Another way you can practice this is really by putting some reminders in your calendar. And, you know, if you set up an alert every so often, then whenever the alert goes off, you just pause for a moment and notice, okay, what's happening now? What's happening here in this moment? And sort of taking an inventory of that moment in time, taking a measurement, and training your body to pause, training your body, training your mind, and letting all the dust settle for a second. And then you can get back to whatever you're doing. And if you do that a few times a day, it's amazing how quickly you can train your mind to just calm down whenever you'd like that. So I invite you to explore that only as much as you enjoy, and would love to hear about it.